Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we've had 4 people that have requested to address the commission. I'll call you up individually, and if you would, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The microphone will actually turn off after 3 minutes, and hopefully you'll hear an audible tone as well. If you're not through, please try to wrap up immediately. And if you would, when you come forward, give us your name and your address. So first off is Miss Juanita Charles. Good evening. Good.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Juanita Charles. I'm the founder of Manifest Magic Black Girl Cooperative, and I'm here to officially invite everyone in here to attend the inaugural Clarksville Juneteenth Festival. It will be happening on June 19th at the Wilma Rudolph Event Center from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. For those who know what Juneteenth is, this is a very monumental occasion in our city and in our county. So what I want to do, number one, is say thank you so much to Commissioner Dr. Rashida Leverett for presenting that legislation in the county and ensuring that that was a holiday here. And so I want to say thank you for that. And I also want to thank the commission for passing it. And so with this, we have created, let me correct myself, we have created an immersive, inclusive cultural experience. So with this event, we want to make sure that we are commemorating freedom, that we are celebrating the Black culture, but with this, we are also breaking down racial and cultural barriers. We want you to come out and engage with the community, engage with our history, engage with our culture, and come learn and have fun. We have over 100 vendors, we have food, we have music, we have literature, we have an art gallery, we have a spades, bidwist, and dominoes tournament. So for those of you who play, come on, it should be fun. We have a kids zone that will feature bounce houses, free popcorn, icy machines, and all the different things for the kids. But more than anything, yes, it's gonna be fun, but it's meant to be a cultural experience. So we invite you to come out and celebrate. This is free and open to the public. And just come on out and have fun. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or you need additional information, please check out our website at JuneteenthFestivalClarksville.com. JuneteenthFestivalClarksville.com. Again, this is an immersive cultural experience that is open and free to the public. We want to make sure that, again, you can engage and learn about our culture and see us without viewing us. Questions, concerns, comments? Good. Wilma Rudolph Event Center, June 19th. 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We also have Tina Brown headlining, so if you're not coming for nothing else, I know you're coming for Tina Brown. So thank you so much. I got 41 seconds left. So questions, concerns, comments? Yes, and DJ Pryor. DJ Pryor is hosting. We have so much live entertainment. We have jazz, blues, hip hop. We have funk. We have all of these different entertainers. We have some discussion panels. Don't touch my hair. The N-word, the language of Black people. We have a whole bunch of dancers, including some African dancers that are going to open up at the beginning. We have movement through history that tells our history, and we have the 1619 project out of Chicago that's going to do a set. So definitely come out and be a part.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Miss Nicole Kurawa. I hope I said that right. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Kuroiwa, and I live at 2480 Settlers Trace. Thank you to our County Commission for taking the time to hear our voices tonight regarding the abandonment of Collinsview Way. In looking at homes last year, our family thoroughly researched various areas and neighborhoods in Clarksville and ultimately purchased a home 3 houses away from the intersection of Settlers Trace and Collinsview Way. Having 4 children, it was important for us to be in a quiet neighborhood that would be safe for childhood play and with minimal traffic. Currently, Settlers Trace runs into a cul-de-sac, and the only traffic on our road is local traffic. We know most of our neighbors, and they are familiar with us. We feel safe playing outside with our children, and we know that we have mutual respect for each other and each other's children. One of our children actually has special needs. He has multiple delays, a severe bone disease, has difficulty walking and running consistently because of past brain surgeries, is currently battling brain cancer for the second time in his little life, and has significant hearing loss due to chemotherapy treatments. While we constantly monitor him outside, like any 10-year-old, he needs independence and will sometimes beat me to the road, on foot or on his bike. Like every other child, he deserves to be able to play outside freely, safely, and like our neighbors in the area know that he is there. Should the proposed connection to the new Sterling Acres be allowed, you will be allowing access to our neighborhood to 320 additional lots. Given a typical two-car household, this will be granting access to roughly 640 additional cars, not to mention their guests. While they may not all travel through our neighborhood, it will be possible to do so as a shortcut. And when people take shortcuts, they generally aren't obeying the speed laws or traffic laws. This road will become a thoroughfare of drivers who will not be aware that there is a child with severe hearing disability nearby, including other children who play along the path that they will travel. While we understand that there may be financial implications of a road abandonment, the implications of injury, decreased safety, and allowing access to hundreds of people who don't need to be traveling on our road would be far more detrimental. Vote in favor of public safety. We know that our commissioners can vote when necessary to break county ordinances. The precedent has already been set in the fall when the area was rezoned. Now is the time to vote for your citizens. Please know that your citizens, your constituents, we seek your approval and beg for your approval of the abandonment of Collins View Way for the safety of our families and children. Thank you again for your time. And in closing, I'd like to ask that all who are here with me tonight in favor of the abandonment, please stand with me and ask to be heard and represented accordingly. Thank you again.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. James Parham.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Parham. I'm a resident of Stones Manor. I live at 2425 Settlers Trace. My family and I moved to Stones Manor in October of last year. We fought to come back to Clarksville because of the community that has welcomed us when we were here previously, and as well as the neighborhood of Stones Manor in particular. One of our first experiences there was just walking through the neighborhood, meeting some of our would-be neighbors at that time, and the fact that they would take a time and stop, wait for our kids to cross the road, really spoke to us. And so we made a commitment at that time to invest into Stones Manor. What we've come to realize, though, is that a lot of other families that lived there did exactly the same thing. They moved to the small community of Stones Manor to avoid the thoroughfare, to avoid the cut-throughs that have been established in many other communities throughout Clarksville. And what we're asking for today is for that to not happen here. Now, it doesn't need to happen. It just requires a vote from you all to say, hey, you know what, we're going to approve the abandonment of Collins View Way. Now, as Nicole has already said, the precedent's already been set. In June, you voted to not rezone the land. September, 3 months later, you said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and rezone that. And that's fine with us. We encourage growth. But what we don't want is unnecessary traffic going through our neighborhood. My children learn to ride their bikes right now, and I want them to do that in a safe environment. Allowing the connection to occur reduces that safe environment. And it creates a strain on not just myself, my family, or Nicole's family, but many other residents of Stones Manor. Something that we've come to realize, though, looking at the other communities, and I'll reference one that my in-laws live in Farmington, is people drive through that place really fast. I don't let my children play in the front yard of my in-laws' house just because of the speeds that people travel on those roads. And I don't want to see that happen to the neighborhood that we've come to love and be, appreciative of. Something that I would like to see for every neighborhood in Clarksville is that very same thing. But it requires that those connectors that are required by some of the ordinances be ceased. And so that's what we're asking for as well, is to relook at potentially the ordinance that creates these connectors. Does it need to happen to every neighborhood? Is it somewhat of need to be of a more refined nature? Maybe the housing requirements, so that they are similar in nature to create the connector. A concern of ours is that we're going to have a potentially almost 900 house community that is joined by one street. And that's something that we don't want to see. We moved out of a mega neighborhood and into a small one to feel the community that we do. So I'm asking you to approve the abandonment of Collins View Way today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Devin Smith?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for allowing us to speak here to everyone this evening. I'm Devin Smith. I live at 195 Mansco Place. We are, again, recent residents to Clarksville community. And the reason we chose Clarksville is the children's godparents live in this area, and we thought it was just a great community to visit. So not only do we live in this community, I also work from home. I live 4 houses down from the proposed abatement, and I often spend a lot of time with my children outside. I have a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a brand new driver, and the brand new driver travels that road every day. And with increased traffic, I do have concerns, as she still is learning, and my young men walk with me every evening. A lot like other of my neighbors in the area, and I see quite a bit of them from my street, everyone spends a lot of time outside. Everyone either walking in the community, speaking to each other, and we have a lot of children who run throughout our neighborhood daily. My 7-year-old with a pack of other 5-year-olds, or 5 to 7-year-olds run around. They ride their bikes. They enjoy the time and the freedom that they have without increased traffic in the area. I can not only see the abandonment area out of my bedroom and bathroom window, but I can also hear the large amount of construction that is going on currently. And I have a fear that with that would come an increased amount of noise and also traffic through the area. Most recently, we started a change.org petition, and we were able to garner 246 signatures on that petition, not only just from our area, but from the areas of Farmington and other areas with our Exit 8 community. Most recently, we do have a house that we share, an amenity house in our neighborhood, and we have already had a lot of issues with breaking and entering and other trespassing areas, and this is before we add an additional 240 lots, 700, 800 homes to our area. So we're already having a lot of problems with people coming into our neighborhood, and just frankly, people who aren't supposed to be there. So I ask for your consideration for the abatement of the Collins View Way. I do understand that while there is a financial impact and there may be some opposed to it, to please consider not only my children, but the other children in the area who play right across from that stop sign in that area. I could count the amount of cars that travel down my street currently, and I have no doubt that in the future that amount will increase greatly if we do not move to abate this portion of Collins View Way. So I thank everyone for their time. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that ends our request for citizens to address the commission. We'll now call our informal meeting to order, the June 7th, 2021. First on our agenda is public hearing regarding zoning resolutions. As Mr. Tyndall is making his way to the podium, I'll remind our commissioners and those in the audience, Mr. Tyndall will give his presentation, and after each presentation, we will have a public hearing regarding that zoning request. And those that would like to speak in favor or in opposition of any of these zoning requests, our same rules still apply. You have 3 minutes. The microphone will do the same thing. You'll also hear a tone as well. Mr. Tyndall, our first case is CZ 9-2021, application of Todd Morris from R1 to R4.
Give me about 30 more seconds and we'll get hooked up here. All right, good evening, County Commission. I'm here to bring several cases before you today from the Planning Commission. The first case is CZ 9-2021. This is a request by Todd Morris and the agent is Houston Smith. This is 5.84 acres, currently zoned R1, requesting to be rezoned to R4. It is an extension of the R4 to the south, and the property is located on Old Sango Road and west of Sango Drive. You can see the area just north of Highway 41A and the intersection with McAdoo Creek on the screen. This is in County Commission District Number 15. It's a level tract of land with a single-family home currently on site, and the applicant's statement is to allow for multifamily development. It is in the urban growth boundary. Here's the current zoning map, and you can see the R4 to the south, 2 parcels of that. This is traveling on Old Sango Road, intersection at the end there. The property is on the right, just past the trees. There's a AT&T building that is not part of this request, but the property surrounds it. Looking at that property there on Sango Drive, back toward 41A. More of the same property. Here's the intersection looking to the right. And just another view back towards Sango Drive. There's the current house on the property, which would be removed during this development phase. And then looking from the driveway back across the street of Sango Drive. Of department comments or concerns, the Clarksville Gas and Water Department said no sewer available on site and possible water upgrades will be required. Highway Department said a traffic assessment would be required at development phase for site distance. There were no other comments or concerns from the development departments, and the school system comments for the capacities at Sango, Richview, and Clarksville High are noted. The historical estimate for this site would be 69 units. It is in the Sango planning area. The staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The request is an extension of the R4 multifamily district to the south. The adopted land use plan states that it's encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing types throughout the community, and adequate infrastructure serves the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified relative to this request, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Any questions for Mr. Tyndall regarding CZ9 2021 by the commissioners? All right, at this time, we'll go into public hearing to hear comments related to CZ9 2021. I would remind those in the audience, our rules are we will allow 3 people to speak in favor of and 3 people to speak in opposition of any of these zoning requests. So is there anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ9 2021?
Good evening. My name is Todd Morris. I'm the proposed developer builder of the R4 zoning that we're proposing. The main thing that I want to say, I know when R4 is thrown out, it spooks everybody. Everybody thinks apartments. These are not going to be apartments. I've done the development right around the corner of the Viridian where we've done condos. These are also going to be condos if approved. There will be an HOA involved. Single family residences, just a little different style, 2 to 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, half bath downstairs. They'll all have garages. Obviously landscape buffer. There's multiple entrances in and out, which will allow cars to come off of both of the main roads, not to congest just one. And like I say, my main thing, I just want everybody to know they're not apartments. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions for Mr. Morris? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ9 2021? Anyone else to speak on behalf? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to CZ9 2021? Come on to the microphone, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Rob Wall. I'm a member of the Sango Crossing community, which resides across the street from the property. One note I would like to make just in response to Mr. Tyndall's comments, the R4 property that is listed there is not residential multifamily living as it states there now. It's a daycare facility. So it may be zoned R4, but it's currently a daycare facility. Had a few comments. Most of the things in opposition for the folks in our community are related to traffic. There's considerable traffic on Sango Road due to the Red Banner Daycare, as well as East Montgomery Elementary School. We do not think our current infrastructure can handle the additional 69 more families. During the school year, the traffic on Sango Road is often backed up as far as Wilson Way subdivision to the north, as well as the traffic light at 41A immediately to the south. Looking to the future, it raises serious congestion and safety concerns as CEMC purchased the property on the corner, and that the amount of traffic from their facility on the corner sort of remains unseen as it goes into the future, not knowing the impact of how that will affect that intersection. Sango Road is a 2-lane road with no shoulders, open drainage ditches, and is landlocked by the current businesses, residences, subdivisions, and Sango Cemetery down the street, leaving little to no room for future expansion of the road. The impact of these units will affect the nearby established subdivisions as well as upcoming changes as well. In the next few years, there will be new, like I said, in addition to CMC, the Trough Springs subdivision, which is considerably to the north. Folks using that, trying to get to 41A, traveling south towards, adds even more traffic to that already busy area. So we would just like you to consider, most of our concerns are related to traffic and the stopping of buses. So thank you. That's all the comments I have.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ9 2021? Anyone else to speak in opposition? All right, we'll close the public hearing on CZ9. CZ11 2021, application of Jeff Shepard from R1 to C2. Mr. Tyndall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is 1.15 acres, currently zoned R1, requesting to go to C2. It is not an extension of the C2. The property is located at the northeast corner of Lake Road and Old Dover Road intersections. This is in County District number 7. It's a corner lot with existing structures associated with a business, and the applicant wishes to bring the property into zoning compliance to be used as a construction company office. This is in the planned growth area. It does have a prior zoning history from 2006 where it did request C2 and failed at the time. This is the zoning map of the area. You can see along Old Dover Road and Lake Road, there is no commercial at the intersection, but one block to the north, there is considerable commercial interest at that intersection with some buildings. We did not receive any comments or concerns from other departments. Here's the intersection in question. The property is across the street and to the right. There's the property in question. It encompasses pretty much the entire business, as you can see it there. There's the home up Lake Road adjacent to it, and on Old Dover Road approaching the intersection. And this is, I believe, across the street or up the street from there. And there's also Old Dover Road as you approach the intersection. Planning Commission staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The proposed property is located at a corner of a 4-way stop controlled intersection. Commercial zoning classifications are ideally located at intersections to enhance their commercial and economic potential. Adequate infrastructure serves the site. No adverse environmental issues were identified at this time, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall from any commissioners? Seeing no questions, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. We'll now go into public hearing to hear public comments related to CZ11 2021. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this application? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Shepard. I live at 2168 Happy Hill Acres Road in Woodlawn. I'm the owner of the proposed zone change. I'm just here to answer any questions that may be on behalf of this zone change.
Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Shepard? Commissioner Pritchard?
Mr. Shepard, you're going to do what with this property now?
It will be a construction office and a place to work out of.
What is it right now?
It is just that.
So you're just going to upgrade?
Yes, ma'am. It's nothing will change. I'm just coming into compliance.
Okay, okay. Do you know why they turned you down last time?
I believe I asked for 5, and I was told that was the wrong thing to ask for.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Butts?
I have a question, but it's for Jeff.
Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Shepherd? Okay, with no more questions for Mr. Shepherd, if you want to step back to your seat, that's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Tyndall, you've got a mic right there, Jeff, if you want it.
Mr.
Yes,
Tyndall,
Commissioner.
what would be the difference in C2 to C5 for Mr. Shepherd? What,
Yes, C5 is a more intense industrial district, allows more auto-oriented things like car dealers, auto body, a little more noxious uses. And it belongs on the arterials and the highways. That's where the C5 district belongs. C2 is more of a neighborhood commercial district, but it does allow construction offices, which is what he's requesting.
thank you.
All right, anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 11 2021? Oh, Commissioner Bill, do you have a question?
Sir, I do. Mr. Tyndall, because he said that there's nothing changing, that kind of raises a red flag for me. Does this mean that he's currently out of compliance?
The applicant is currently using the site as they're requesting it to be rezoned. Yes.
So with it currently being R1, does that mean that he is out of compliance with that zoning?
He is out of compliance with R1 and is not
Okay.
grandfathered into the zoning ordinance.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 11 2021? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 11 2021? Please come forward.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Major Durrett. My name is Vince Reap. I'm a resident of Woodlawn. I live at 2614 Lake Road. Been here since 2003. Before that, I was on the other side of town in 1993. The at issue here is really the definition, I think, within the zoning resolution about the intended use, the current use of the property and the intended use of the property. So under R1, we've established clearly is in violation of the zoning law or the zoning description. Changing this to R2 to bring into zoning compliance, given the description of the Montgomery County zoning resolution for R2 will not work. C2, I'm sorry, C2, my mistake. So C2 is a general professional office, general business of the retail variety. Specifically, though, if you look at land use tables 3.4, you'll see that C2 for in this instance, I think what he's asking for is a building contractor shop, which would fit the C2 or C5 district descriptions. But within those permitted conditions states all operations, materials, and supplies shall be enclosed entirely within the building. Can we go back a couple of slides and show the photograph from the street view of the property and the array of heavy construction equipment, including John Deere crawler loader, a heavy equipment trailer, lowboy, concrete culverts, pallets of corrugated pipe, large volume storage of above ground diesel greater than 1,320 gallons. Additionally, tracked excavator, dump truck, et cetera. Is it possible to go back a slide or two? Oh, sorry. A decent view from the corner of the intersection. For the commission members, I've handed out hard copy photographs. If you look at the third photograph, it'll give you a pretty good image of what you see from the street today. That was shot this afternoon. Furthermore, in the definition that the manufacturing, fabrication, processing, assembly process shall not create any danger to health or safety, Furthermore, shall not create any objectionable noise, glare. Number 3, merchandise, finished product, raw materials, equipment are to be stored within an enclosed building. Number 4, no new or used materials to be stored outside. 5th, no new or used products or materials to be stored on vehicles unless fully enclosed by the vehicle. I know I'm running out of time, but I appreciate running long. My recommendation is that you deny the petition to rezone from R1 to C2.
I don't think everybody heard what, I know it's our system, but go ahead. I know you didn't, the last few words you said, I didn't even hear them.
Sorry, sir.
It's not your problem, it's the machine's problem.
In the recommendation was to deny the petition to rezone from R1 to C2 as the justification for the request is without merit. The land use of the property is not in compliance with R1, and it will not be in compliance with C2 as described in the Montgomery County Planning Zone Resolution and its description of C2 zoning district and the permitted conditions.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 11, 2021? Anyone else to speak in opposition to CZ 11, 2021? We will now close the public hearing on CZ 11, 2021, CZ 12, 2021, application of Jason Nguyen from AG to R1. Mr. Tyndall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the application of Jason Nguyen. Agent is Bobby Powers. This is 42.5 acres, currently zoned ag and requesting to go to R1. And it is an extension of the zoning classification. We'll show you this here. I'll pause here because there was a question at the Planning Commission about sort of the arbitrary nature of the R1 zone along River Road and Palmyra Road. When the zoning ordinance was first adopted, we didn't have the technology like we do today with GIS and mapping capabilities. So often what they would do is take a marker and draw 300 or 400 feet off the road and say that's the residential district, and then the bulk acreage in the back, they can ask for additional rezoning in the future if necessary. I'll also point out, and it's important on this property, to see the actual, where the zone line is. Let's see. All right, you can see that laser pointer good. So the property is actually a rectangle that goes down and back up, barely touches River Road right there. The applicant also owns this piece of rectangular property here, and there's where the frontage is to the road for the development. So the overall property goes up, out, and then back down. They obviously only have to request R1 zoning for the portion that's not R1 on this property. Again, this is on River Road, south of Hilltop View Road and River Road. This is in County Commission District Number 6. It's a wooded tract with varying topography, and its statement's applicant is to extend the R1 zone for the remainder of the parcel for the development of a single-family subdivision, and this is in a planned growth area. The property is across the street here. It takes in the area approximately where the guide rail is and a little bit to the left of it, right there across from Bent Tree Court. There's a road on the other side, and on the map it looks like it touches it, but it does not. Hilltop View Road. The property would be directly ahead of this end of that road, but there is no frontage for this property on that road. And there's Hilltop View Road, but again, that's a neighboring area. Traffic will not be coming out of here unless the applicant somehow gets frontage, which I don't think they could for this property. Applicants estimated for units would be 58. Planning Commission's is 81, but remember this is an area that's on septic or engineered sewer systems, so not on sewer like you do in the city. Planning staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. I'm sorry, let me pause and go back. We did receive comments from the school system. There were no other comments or concerns from the other departments. Planning staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The northern portion of the subject tract is currently zoned R1 single family, and the proposed R1 single family residential request is not out of character with the surrounding area. Adequate infrastructure will serve the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified at this time, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall on CZ 12, 2021? Commissioner Woodruff.
One question. Are there any plans, or do you know of any plans for this to go on city sewage or state septic?
I think that's a great question for the applicant, but I believe it's going to be its own engineered community septic system.
I don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but anyway, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Tyndall? All right, we will now go into public hearing to hear public comments related to CZ 12, 2021. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this application? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Bryce Powers, representing the applicant. As Mr. Tyndall said, this is a 50-acre tract that kind of has an awkward zone line right in the middle of it, separating the AG from the R1 when the zoning ordinance was originally written. So we're just asking for the balance of the property to be rezoned R1. This property is in the planned growth area, which is immediately adjacent to the urban growth boundaries or the city limits, whichever location it may be. And this is close to commercial services, as you'll see there, the Hilltop Grocery and several other businesses right there. Hilltop View Road was mentioned. That is a very narrow road. This property does not have frontage on that, and there will be no connection whatsoever on that side. There won't even be any houses on that northwest corner of that. There's a pretty significant drain that kind of cuts off that northern part. And Commissioner Woodruff, to answer your question, it will be this engineered septic system means all the houses won't have an individual septic system. They're all pumped together, and that northwest corner will be where our common septic leach field is. We've done a similar development on the other side of Highway 48 called Warioto Hills that has a similar system. As you drive in the neighborhood, it does not look like a septic subdivision, but there's 7 acres set aside for that common septic system. The benefit of these types of systems on the south side of the river where there is no city sewer is it limits that sprawl of large lots in the county. So we're going to have normal sized lots like you might see in the city, close to the city boundary. Again, 58 to 60 lots is kind of what our preliminary analysis has been. We'll have to do some additional engineering work to determine that number exactly. But we do feel like this is a smart, great area for the development like this. And I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Powers? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Somebody said she had one. Did the commissioner have a question? Someone from the crowd. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't allow questions from the crowd. I know that sounds rude. I don't know how else to say it. Anyone else to speak in favor of CZ 12, 2021? Anyone else to speak in favor of? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to CZ 12, 2021? Anyone to speak in opposition? All right, we'll now close the public hearing on CZ 12, 2021. CZ 13, 2021, application of Jane Walker from AG to R1. Mr. Tyndall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the application of Jane Walker. The agent is Civil Site Service Clarksville, Chris Goodman. The acreage is 17.8 acres. It's currently zoned Ag and wishes to be rezoned to R1. The property is located off of Deerwood Road, approximately 825 feet south of Highway 41A and Deerwood Road intersection, and it is an extension of the zoning classification to the east. This is in County Commission District Number 3. The property has an existing home on site with a tree line separating a pasture. The applicant's statement is to rezone it to allow for a small subdivision. This is in the planned growth area. So as a reminder, R1 is the most intense residential district they can request in the planned growth area. This is Deerwood with the property on the left as you enter it, with 41A about 800 feet behind you. This is the property in question with the tree line, the pasture. The pasture area right there is the area that's proposed to be redeveloped for the subdivision, even though the applicant has requested the entire property to be rezoned to R1. There's a straight-on view of it. The home site adjacent to it. The existing home on that site is proposed to remain per the applicant, and these are some homes across the street. Department comments of note: a traffic assessment was required prior to the county commission. It was submitted to the county highway supervisor and accepted. There were no other comments or concerns from departments, with the school system comments of note regarding capacities. Applicant's estimate, and we heard several ranging between 9 and 20 units. The historical estimate, if this entire property were developed, would be approximately 34 units. Staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The request is an extension of the R1 single-family district to the east and southeast. The property lies within the planned growth area of the adopted 2040 growth plan and is not out of character with development pattern in the Sango area. The adopted land use opinion map identifies this area for single-family residential development, and adequate infrastructure serves the site. No adverse environmental issues were identified relative to the request at this time, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall for CZ 13, 2021? Commissioner Leverett.
Yes, Mr. Tyndall, I'm looking at the map here, and I noticed that in some of the other areas, there is E1. And I know that you said that the property owner only wants to do a portion of the property. Would it be more feasible if the landowner would change the zoning to E1 that would kind of complement the area?
I think that's a good question for the applicant.
Okay.
But I would say the planning staff would likely treat E1 and R1 similar in this circumstance.
How many can you put on the E1 versus a R1? What's the maximum?
Sure. E1 is a 30,000 square, I'm sorry, there's E1A, which is a step between R1 and E1. E1 is a 1 acre lot, and E1A is a 30,000 square foot lot, approximately 3/4 of an acre. So, you know, if they're only going to develop half of the 17 acres, 9 total on the 1 acre lots, you're going to lose some acreage to the roads and the infrastructure, so maybe 8 when you start taking that into account. Again, I'm not an engineer, so these are estimates based on what we historically see in other subdivisions.
Okay. All right, I'll ask the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beal.
Thank you. So Commissioner Leverett kind of stole my question, but that's all right. But I do want to make sure that I understand. So there are currently 16 homes there, is that correct?
The Deerwood Road subdivision, as you can see in the aerial.
I think I'm counting 16.
Right here.
Or no, 18. I'm sorry, it's 18.
I don't know if all those lots are developed, but somewhere between 16 and 18 homes of various ages back on Deerwood Road.
Okay. So, and the applicant is proposing 15 or 16, is that correct?
I'd say we've heard the number between 9 and 20.
Okay.
I think it depends on a lot of factors.
But R1 will allow up to 34.
If the entire site were developed, yes, including the existing home on site.
Okay, and currently as it is, he could put 9. Is that correct?
If they were to under ag?
Correct.
Assuming that the current home goes away or stays?
Good question.
So, yeah, that's a good question as well.
So, yeah, because I was going to ask the same.
Ag is 1.5 acre lots. So
Okay.
You can divide this by 1.5, take a road out, again, 7 or 8, but that would be the entire parcel.
Okay. I was going to ask the same thing as Commissioner Leverett. It seems like E1 might be a little more conducive to this area, but there's really no benefit if ag and E1 would allow close to the same number. Am I thinking out loud correctly here?
Almost.
Almost.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think if the entire parcel were developed as ag, assuming the demolition of the current home site, you would get approximately the same units as maybe half the property with E1.
Gotcha.
E1's or E1A is less than half the size of an ag lot.
Okay. All righty. I'll allow Ms. Leverett to ask the applicant the question, and if she doesn't, I will. How come we're not doing E1 instead? So thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Tyndall regarding CZ 13, 2021? All right, thanks, Jeff. We'll now go into public hearing to hear public comments regarding CZ 13, 2021. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of CZ 13? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Chris Goodman. I'm the engineer working with the family on this project. I believe all of you received an email with a conceptual layout of what we are projecting for the project to be. It does show 16 lots. However, the lot that has the existing farm pond, they intend to keep that. So we are looking at 15 lots. We are saying a maximum of 20 lots because once we get a survey in, we never know how topo is going to affect certain things in the layouts and things of that nature when we get into design. We did do a traffic assessment. It was submitted to the county highway supervisor and to the planning commission, and it was accepted. So beyond that, the landowners are planning on staying at the house. I guess it's, if you take away 9 acres, I guess you get eight acres left. That's what they're planning on staying in. I'll be happy to answer any questions for you, and the landowners are here.
Any questions of Mr. Goodwin? Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, Chris. Normally, you would split off the property that you're going to keep and not submit that for rezoning, correct? Why in this case hasn't that happened?
Basically because in the process of doing these things, if you're doing the survey, you have to actually do a full legal description of what you're getting rezoned. When you do the entire property, you submit the deeds, and that's what gets rezoned.
Would the picture that I looked at, the house sits quite a bit back from the road. Would it even qualify as R1 if that lot, if we were to rezone the entire thing to R1?
I guess I'm not following your question. You're saying about the existing house is what?
The existing house.
Correct.
Could you even make that an R1 lot with it?
Oh, sure. Sure. I mean, it'd be a very big R1 lot, but yeah. So yeah, if you just wanted to cut off the existing property right there and make it all one lot, yeah, you could do that easily.
How much would be left to rezone then if you took the existing house out of it?
Roughly 9 acres.
Okay.
Give or take.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Leverett.
My question that I asked earlier for Mr. Tyndall, I'll ask, if you plan on keeping the existing house and the existing property and only using a portion of it, why not change the zoning to E1 that would complement this ag area?
Quite honestly, a lot of it's economics. By the time you have to build a road and install utilities for 8 or 9 lots, it doesn't become economical to do it anymore. If you're going to have to build a road, which to get the 9 lots that you're even talking about there, you would still have to build a road. So trying to get managed between economics and doing a very good subdivision, it was a better choice to go to R1.
Okay.
Commissioner Joe Smith.
Hello, Mr. Goodman. My question would be probably more for the homeowner, but along the same lines as them. I met with all the residents of Deerwood Road, minus I think two families on Saturday. And one of their biggest concerns would be addressed if the property owner would split off the home and however many acres they plan to keep for farm or for ag and leave that ag versus supposedly trying to come back later on and re-request ag. That seems like moving backwards, and they'd be paying double for another zoning request. What I would rather see is if they would survey it out and portion off the side that they want to rezone and get an R1 or an E1 or even leave it ag, however they want to do it, to get as many lots as they can. I think that would help alleviate a lot of the concerns of the constituents who are on Deerwood Road. That was their main concern, is that rezoning the whole property allows for up to 34.
Sure.
We don't know the exact intentions. They could stay living in that house. They could sell it tomorrow if the money's right, which is their right as a property owner. I stated that to all the constituents I met with. But I think to help alleviate their concerns, I think coming back with a split plan would probably be the best idea, and them keeping their part of the property separate from what they're trying to rezone.
I understand. I think I would defer that question to the owners.
And that's what I'll probably do.
So,
Any other questions of Mr. Goodwin? Thank you, Chris. Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 13, 2021?
Hello, my name is Ben Walker. I am the applicant of Jane Walker, and I'm the son of the applicant, I'm sorry. We are here for the 17 acres, and it's mentioned before, but my parents have no plans to move on that property, on that 8-acre property. I grew up there. Dad and Mom bought this, Frida Holt sold this first 4 acres. Dad and Mom had some property behind it, and they bought the 4 acres in front of it so they wouldn't be landlocked as an investment in the future for retirement. I build houses, so it works out well if the development goes through that I could build houses, custom houses, $500,000 plus. It'd be nice brick homes. We'd have some green space, the fish pond to leave. But in no way do they plan on leaving their home. So if you have any questions, feel free to.
Any questions of Mr. Walker? Commissioner Joe Smith?
I want to just direct that question that I just spoke with Mr. Goodman about to you. If they have no intention of leaving the area, why not do a survey and section off 9 acres for rezoning and leave the house and the barn agricultural?
Yeah, I think initially we just went ahead with the R1 zoning for the full 17 acres because it's not required to survey it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility to resurvey that.
I think that would be an alleviation of all of your neighbors' concerns. And I'll ask, there's a lot of people here in the audience from Deerwood Road. I think almost every family member is here. If they want to stand up for a second just to be recognized on how many people are here. These are your neighbors. I know, I used to live right in front of Deerwood Road, so I know how tight of a knit community that all of these families are. Mm-hmm. All of you talk, all of them have associated with your parents at some point. And I think the neighborly and friendly thing to do is if they're not planning to move, let's divide that off and come back with a proposal of rezoning for the acreage that we actually want to develop. I think that would alleviate a lot of their concerns. There are some other concerns, and I do plan to meet with your family this week. I'm a little behind on my meetings due to my son being in the hospital for the past 2 weeks, but I did get a chance to meet with those residents on Saturday, and I plan to meet with your family this week to address some other concerns, but this was one of the major ones that I think would help with everything going on.
Okay. It wouldn't change the concept. The concept's still between 15 to 20 houses. You know, we're going to have a little green space, so you're probably looking at the lower on that. But.
Any other questions of Mr. Walker? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 13? Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners and crowd. My name is Jane Walker. My husband and I own the property at 171 Deerwood Road. We've lived on Deerwood Road for almost 39 years. Only 2 other families in the neighborhood have lived there longer. We love our home, we love our neighborhood, we raised our family in the neighborhood, and we have wonderful memories from those times. Now our grandchildren are making memories there. We're not planning to move at any time. We have 9 acres of pasture land adjoining the 8.5 acres where our home is situated. My husband has been raising cows on the 9 acres of pasture for many years, and he recently decided to give that up. Once he made this decision, we decided it didn't make any sense to keep that land when it wasn't being used. We have calls on a weekly basis offering to buy our property. So our first thought was to sell the property. Then we became concerned about what a buyer might do on the property, as land is so scarce in the Sango area now. We didn't want to do anything that would hurt the neighborhood and the value of our homes. We discussed this with our son, and he suggested developing it ourselves. Our son is a builder, and he builds quality homes. I am very sorry that the neighbors are so concerned. No one likes change, but growth is happening in the Sango area, and if we don't develop this property, someone else will. This way, we can make sure that it is done in a way that will be pleasing and attractive to the neighborhood. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions of Ms. Walker? Commissioner Leverett, I'm sorry.
Yes, Ms. Walker, just the same question that myself and your Commissioner Joe Smith proposed, was to have the land surveyed, and the section that you're not going to continue to keep, can you look at maybe surveying that for E1 and keeping your property that you intend to stay in at ag? That way it kind of still complements the neighborhood, and I think it'll make a kind of a compromise between yourself and your neighbors.
Right. We talked about this before we even talked about developing the property. And it was hard to find a surveyor at that time. And so we said, well, we'll just go ahead and try to have the whole property rezoned, and then we can always come back. If it passes, then we can come back and have the survey done at that time. So this was the first time we had ever done anything like this, and we didn't know exactly what to do, and we may have done, may have made mistakes, but our intention was good.
Any other questions of Ms. Walker? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 13, 2021? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, citizens of Montgomery County, and Deerwood Road neighbors. I'm Dr. Mark Cherwinski, and I respectfully request you oppose the rezoning of the 17.8 acres from ag to R1. When I retired from the Army 10 years ago, my family and I could have moved anywhere, any place in the world that we wanted to live. We felt blessed to find a home in the county to keep our horses and pursue a quiet country lifestyle. Now we're faced with the potential loss of that lifestyle. Deerwood Road is a narrow, dead-end lane serving 18 homes, all zoned ag in a bucolic setting. The cover sheet for this case, and Mr. Tyndall has stated that this rezoning is an extension of R1 from Ivy Bend on the east and a parcel of land that I own to the southeast. That designation is an administrative classification on a two-dimensional map. We've seen how there's been a mismatch of actual land use with zoning. The reality lies in the land use section of the tax record. The parcel to the east is an expansive meadow with TVA power lines designated fraternal land use by the Ivy Bend Homeowners Association. My parcel to the southeast is properly designated agricultural land use with meadows, forest, pasture, and the TVA lines. An on-site inspection would reveal the folly of considering that land R1, as it is not feasible to build residential housing on either site. In all endeavors, good planning is in the details. In this case, one should go beyond the zoning and consider the actual land use to see this is not a simple extension of R1, but an intrusive subdivision being placed within an agricultural neighborhood. We all desire growth in the region, but it must be measured. The Regional Planning Commission approved this case for rezoning. Their job is to determine if something can be developed. Citizens of Montgomery County rely upon the County Commission to determine whether something should be rezoned. If commissioners only rubber stamp bureaucratic determinations without performing their own due diligence, then this proceeding is a waste of time. There's a place for R1 housing and those who wish to reside there, but there must also be room to preserve our rights to live in an ag zoning area. Both cannot exist on Deerwood Road. Please disapprove this request. Thanks for your time. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Czerwinski? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to CZ 13, 2021? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and residents counties of Montgomery County. I am Lana Broom, and I live at 272 Deerwood Circle. My family, where my family and I reside, and I believe in property rights. I want to protect my rights on my small farm, a lifestyle that we, as our family, owning horses and agricultural zoning provides. We all have certain rights on our own property. The applicant has those rights too. If the applicant chose to, they could build 9 homes on their property with their current zoning. They have a right to do that. On Deerwood Road, there are 19 homes on large tracts. Barns, 4 families have horses. There's goats, pigs, chickens, and donkeys. Every home is on septic, and it's a dead-end road. We all have bought and paid for our land and homes, and we want to protect our property rights as well as our property values. For most of us, we have our biggest investment of our lives tied up into our property. We are here in front of you tonight because the applicant wants to exceed their current zoning. This affects my property rights, and they take away our existing right to have an agricultural neighborhood. I want to point out, according to Mr. Tyndall and the RPC, that the calculation would allow 34 homes on this existing 17 acres. AG zoning is designed to protect a certain way of life. A residential zoning is designed to protect neighborhoods from anything that is not residential and protect them from encroachment. That would be us. Will we lose the ability to safely have horses, pigs, chickens, target practice? Will our rights be taken away? Wouldn't it be better to keep it as AG or maybe even possibly E1 to offer the agricultural community some protection? If this R1 zoning change is approved, anyone who holds this deed can build 34 homes under an R1. Your vote is the law. It is final. Is our existing property rights as an AG zoning forever going to be changed? The intended use for our land denied, our genuine agricultural community gone? I just have one question tonight, and that is, why does it have to be R1? Could all those that are in opposition in our neighborhood please stand for this zoning change? Have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. All right, anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 13, 2021?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and Deerwood residents. I'm Terry Peavyhouse, retired Sergeant Major who first brought to Clarksville in 1993 and have since then made Montgomery County my home for me, my wife, and my 5 children. We respectfully request that you deny the proposed rezoning of the 17 acres at 171 Deerwood Road from AG to R1. As has been identified multiple times tonight, R1 would allow for up to 34 homes, regardless of who builds them. My family and I live at 136 Deerwood, directly across from the proposed area to be rezoned. Our properties are separated by Deerwood Road, which is a 21-foot wide, 2-lane road that is serves as the only route in and out of our community. As stated, Deerwood is comprised of 19 homes, averaging 3 acres to 35 acres in size. And that was one of the main decision points for us moving to Deerwood when I retired from the military 3 years ago. As Colonel Czerwinski mentioned, Deerwood is comprised of steep rolling terrain, which what may not have been as apparent is that the property seeking rezoning is one of the highest points, and it drops over 50 feet in elevation as it crosses my property and flows to McAdoo Creek. There's already a natural pond, retention pond on my property created by drainage from that property. The rezoning of R1 will cause irreversible damage to my property and the surrounding properties with insufficient information for you to make a decision on this case tonight. I thank the Commissioner's questions earlier because what has been provided is a simple sketch for 16 lots for development on approximately 9 acres of that 17.8, but it only opens more questions. What is being done with the remaining acreage that is rezoned to R1? Has there been a land survey? Will it tap into Ivy Bend sewer? If so, how and where? If not, has there been a perk test done for septic? To my earlier point, what is the plan for stormwater drainage and runoff? This will increase during initial construction due to the vegetation loss from evacuation and then permanently from stormwater runoff from concentrated roofs, driveways, and roadways. The other lack of planning precludes estimation of the taxpayers' cost for the subdivision infrastructure and inevitably road upgrades while those seeking development profit. I served in the military for 30 years, and me and my family definitely support property owners maintaining the ability to do what isn't within their legal rights on their property. Our concern with rezoning is a violation of the remaining residents of Deerwood. Could there be a compromise as has been identified tonight? E1 single-family residential district states the purpose of E1 single-family resident estate is to provide a low-density detached.
Let him finish up.
Okay.
Skip, please.
Detached development on lots containing 1 acre or more in order to ensure a compatibility of new development with existing large lot neighborhoods. Its purpose is also to provide for the protection of the environment-sensitive areas such as floodplains and steep slopes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, that wraps up, that's 3 in opposition to CZ 13, 2021. We will come out of public hearing on that and go to CZ 14, 2021, application of FWJR Development Partnership from M1 to C5. Mr. Tyndall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is 4.21 acres. It's currently zoned M1, and they're requesting to go to C5. It is not an extension of the C5 classification. I'll show you that here in a second. This property is on the southeast area of Guthrie Highway, north of Hampton Station Road in County Commission District 19. As you can see here in the map, you have Guthrie Highway to the north and Hampton Station Road connects just outside this picture. To the left is the former Union Carbide or UCAR site, currently used by U.S. Smokeless Tobacco, I believe, for some storage and manufacturing. There's some associated light industrial uses along Guthrie Highway and a concrete plant on Hampton Station Road. This is the zoning. As you can see, there's no C5 in the area. The applicant's statement is to convert the existing office building into a private school. This is in the rural area. And I will agree, this looks like a wonderful building for a school on its surface, but I think you need to look at the bigger picture here as we show you the rest of the pictures in the area. This is an industrial area that is bordered on 2 sides by land owned by Montgomery County's Industrial Development Board and some other properties in the area owned by individual property owners with industrial interests. This is, as you approach the property on the private road, there are some questions that would need to be answered prior to development of this. This property does appear to be landlocked. The surrounding property owners would have to work something out to get this driveway or road back to this property figured out. And this is the property up in the back. Here's the American Snuff Company sign directly in front of this school. The comments from the departments, this would be in Clarksville City Sewer District. No sewer is available on site. And there were no other comments or concerns, excuse me, from existing departments. The planning staff recommends disapproval of this application. The proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the land use plan. The adopted land use plan indicates that the present M1 zoning classification is assumed to be correct unless the proposed zone is more consistent with the land use plan, or the parcel is incorrectly zoned in the first place, or a major change of economic or physical or social nature were not considered in the present plan or have substantially altered the character of the area. The permitted use is C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District, and the surrounding M1 and M2 industrial districts may have uses that have adverse effects upon each other. Adequate infrastructure could serve the site. It's important to note that in the C5 zone, a school is an outright permitted use, a private school. So they don't have to go back through the Board of Zoning Appeals for a use permitted upon review. If this does get rezoned, you could have a school in there the next day as soon as they get all the utilities and other issues with the fire marshals worked out. The other concerns of the planning staff is that there could be two-way, as we mentioned, adverse impacts on each other. If a school goes in this location and we have industrial development board property next to it, and they bring in whatever the next industry is here, and it may not be one that's appealing to be next to a school, according to the zoning map as you see it here, there's nothing that would be able to be to not make that permitted. The Industrial Development Board would be allowed to develop their property in the M2, which is our most intense district, as would the surrounding property owners that already own M1 and M2. Likewise, when you get into industrial recruitment or economic development of these surrounding parcels, the location of a school would probably be detrimental to the development of surrounding properties because certain uses wouldn't want to be near a school, even though they were prior zoned M1 and M2. For all these reasons, the Planning Commission also recommends disapproval of this application.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall? Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeff, we don't have any educational facilities located in an industrial site, right, in the county?
As far as I know, no. I'd have to do a little more research just to double check that we don't have one that's maybe adjacent or real close by, but as far as CMCSS is concerned, I don't believe they have any inside with the exception of TCAT.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, I'm going to ask you a few questions that you already answered and some that we all already know the answer to. I'm sure that you remember, I'm sure most of the commissioners remember that on February 11th of 2019, we had a similar situation on a neighboring property where the Montgomery County school system was looking to put a school complex in this very same area. And the recording of that, the video recording of that is still on the county's YouTube page, and you can go back and see that. So to spare everyone from another 20-minute explanation of this, I'm going to stop right there. My question to you is, has anything in that area changed since that event?
Well, if anything, this area has become more industrial. I believe there's been several large-scale rezonings in the past 18 months to the tune of several hundred acres to M2 around, we'll just say within a half mile of this area. There's been no other additional development since that date of these parcels around this area either.
Okay. And the commercial demolition landfill and the tobacco factory are still in the immediate area? Yes?
That's correct. The tobacco factory is right here, and we didn't zoom out far enough, but just to the direct east, the very next parcel past the tobacco warehouse is the commercial landfill.
And there is absolutely no way to control what neighbors will come in next to this property, as it is already zoned for industrial. There's no way that the people who own the school or even the county could say, you can't put an industrial complex next to this property.
That's correct.
And my last question, this was not recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Pritchard?
Yes, sir. Mr. Tyndall, what was that building there?
I'm not exactly sure, but it was likely an office to support the use of the Union Carbide facility. I think the owner might be here to explain that history a little more, but it's been vacant for a while.
Okay, so you're just saying it was part of UCAR?
I'm pretty sure it was their executive office. I think it was.
I just don't remember it being so big. Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Tyndall? All right, we will now go into public hearing to hear public comments related to CZ 14, 2021. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 14? Anyone to speak on behalf of CZ 14, 2021? Anyone to speak in opposition to CZ 14, 2021? I got one coming from both sides. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Bug Dellinger, the Economic Development Council President, newly instated. So the Economic Development Commission staff and the ID Industrial Development staff stand in opposition of this rezoning. This is a highly intensity industrial area, and it's only going to get more intensive in the future. And we just don't want to have to go through the confusion with our potential partners in this area to try to adjust the school into this area. It seems like a bit of a risk for the future of this property and a future for that school.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Anyone else in the audience speak in opposition?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for the chance to speak about this potential rezoning. My wife and I own the industrial M1 property just to the west of this potential rezoning. It is, I think the case has been made very well that this is an industrial area. We just want to make sure that that stays the case because there's a lot of things can happen in that area without your say-so that could negatively affect a school. And likewise, this school definitely would negatively affect, not just this school, but any school. I want to make it very clear, I support the administration of this school. I hope that they can find the right location for this school. We just don't feel like this is the right location for it. The use of this property is fairly well established, and I think our industrial board needs a shout out for how good they've attracted a lot of industry over the last several years. If you go through the industrial park, you'll see help wanted signs galore because they brought a whole lot more jobs than we have people to fill them apparently, which is, I think, a good problem for our community, but a problem nonetheless. That being said, there's about 4 things that I'd like to really point out. I did send an email out to the commissioners and the mayor earlier today. If you didn't get that, I'll be glad to try to resend it, but it's some highlights of what my opposition would be, my concerns would be. And I'll be here again next week. If you have questions, email me back or what have you, I'll be glad to answer them. But traffic is probably one of the bigger. If you can get past the fact that we're looking at an industrial park potentially right beside this potential school, and this is a pre-K, possibly even 3-year-old up to 5th grade school. I mean, there's a heliport within 150 feet of the building. It's an active heliport. I have pictures that I sent in the email that shows you the warning signs for that activity. There's one way in and out. It's a private drive. It's a shared easement. It's not a dedicated road. I think Mr. Tidwell did a good job explaining that earlier. There's currently two M1 properties and one M2 property that share this drive. There'll be potentially this C5 and an additional residual M1 that's left over from what's not being rezoned that would share this one drive. So I respectfully ask for you to consider disapproving this, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Neely? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 14, 2021? Seeing none, we'll now close the public hearing on CZ 14, 2021. Jeff, thank you for all your work on all of these zoning cases. Commissioners, will now go into our resolutions. The first resolution is Resolution 21. Let me back up before we go into that. Commissioner Shelley has put every correspondence that we've received on every one of these zoning cases behind the zoning case in your Dropbox. So if you want to go back, and I've forwarded you a bunch of them, I apologize, but every one of those should be in your Dropbox, and we'll let everybody get out of the chambers. Well, hang on just a second. All right, Resolution 2161, resolution approving the vacation of a portion of Collins View Way. Any questions, commissioners, on this resolution? Commissioner Gannon.
Yes, yes, sir. And before she goes, Miss Nicole had called me earlier in the week and had mentioned that she would have an email from Mr. Blackwell that he no longer wanted to use to enter that road. You were going to forward that to me?
Can you hear me from here?
Yeah. Can I ask her a question about that?
Yeah, but I don't want to get in the back and forth, with all due respect.
No.
But yes, ma'am, please answer the question.
Okay. I did not have a copy of that email, but I went back to the person who had the conversation with him, and it was a verbal conversation. So I had a conversation with Mr. Blackwell, and he was speaking to an engineer to verify this. I don't have anything right now, but we've had multiple conversations.
If Mr. Blackwell's here, can I ask him the same question?
No, sorry. Mr. Blackwell, if he has an email, he can provide that. But if we start letting every commissioner engage somebody in the audience on every question, we'll be here way too long.
It was only about the abandonment. She had mentioned that he didn't need that road anymore. My question is, does he still need the road? Because she's saying he doesn't need it anymore, and that would be an important question.
What? I just, yeah. It's setting a precedence, without a doubt, without a doubt. But you've already asked one, you can ask him. But Mr. Blackwell, I know you, all due respect to you, and ma'am, I hope I didn't offend you, but your answer needs to be short. So ask him his question.
Do you still plan on using the entrance to that Collins View Way Road? Yes, I do. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Garland Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have been in contact with the people who live in Stones Manor for the past year. They were in strong opposition to the subdivision going in the first place. They were in opposition to us hearing the option to bring it back, to hear it again without the year time limit. And they are in opposition to this connector road. We have heard several speak tonight. I'm sure you have all received the emails and the phone calls. It should be pretty clear to everyone in this room that the people who live in the area, the people who have placed their lives in that area, who have invested their time, their energy, their emotions, and their money in this area are asking for our help. And I think it is the very least that we can do to give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Harper.
Mayor, I'm going to defer to Mr. Riccone first.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Riccone.
Well, you know, I appreciate the people who came, and I certainly appreciate Garland Johnson's comments. He's always very insightful. I kind of look at this a little differently. Mr. Tyndall, before you step away, being on the RPC and knowing the plat approval, when a builder or developer submits a plat, there are block lengths, there are accesses that everybody goes through on the plat approval. And those things are what kind of control. So that stub, and we're not talking about a cul-de-sac, this is a stub that was there before any house was built. That road was intended to go somewhere, and everybody there should have realized that. And its interconnectivity to the lot, to the adjacent to it. And that changes the rest of the development of that subdivision and the other. And I'm not trying to push more traffic through one subdivision. If Mr. Blackwell builds what he was proposing, he'll have two accesses. Stones Manor will probably cut through and go more through the other side. But it's very dangerous to me when we start letting people abandoning stub road accesses that were in the plan from day one. The other answer is simply, if you're a developer, you can show 10 stub roads, come in here, get your plat approved, abandon those, pick up 10 more lots. And we lost all control of the planning process, because if we approve this one, why won't we approve every abandonment from here on out? Because every abandonment, the answer is increased traffic. So it's going to be that. That's going to be the answer every time. The other thing, just to point out, and I'm not against Stones Manor, I have many friends that live there, and it's a beautiful community. I actually drafted the restrictions for Stones Manor. It's one of the best kept subdivisions in Clarksville by far. Stones Manor sits on probably, I counted it, it's probably 80 acres, maybe 100 was developed. There's 180 left in Stones Manor in the back of it. So there's still a lot more subdivision behind every homeowner today. They probably want more access. There's one way in and one way out. But the back of Stones Manor, if y'all go look on the GIS, it has a ton of land behind it that is going to turn into a subdivision too. And nothing against the current homeowners, I'm sure it's going to be increased traffic. But I really think this access is probably better for them than they realize. But that's my view on it. I don't like that we're changing plats that have been approved and have been set from the beginning.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. My viewpoint is similar to what Mr. Rucconi stated, but also I think if we do this, we've had some problems basically in my district with vacations where we vacated some property or turned that over. This concept, I understand why Stones Manor has come here and tried this. I do not think this is the proper solution. I think we should look for another solution to it. I think there's possibly something else that we can do. But I do not think that this is the right solution. Vacating part of your subdivision road or access, I just don't think that really would provide the solution that we should be doing. I can conceive this being a legal problem or a legal challenge all across the county for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak regarding 2161? Seeing none, 2162 is a resolution accepting the Public Improvements Program and Capital Budget 2021-2022 through 2025-2026, compiled by Montgomery County, approved by the Clarksville-Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission. Any comments related to 2162? Seeing none, commissioners, that item is slated for the consent agenda. Resolution 2163, resolution to amend the Sheriff's Office budget for vehicle capital and vehicle-related contract services for fiscal year 21. Any questions regarding 2163? Seeing none, that item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 2164, a resolution to restore leave time for public safety personnel that were exempt from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Any questions regarding 2164? Commissioners, without objection, I'm going to recommend that be placed on the consent agenda as well. Resolution 2165 is a resolution amending the budget of the Montgomery County Highway Department for the purchase of equipment to be used for various road construction projects and traffic control in school zones. Any discussion on 2165 or questions? Seeing none, that item is set for the consent agenda as well. Resolution 2166, resolution to ratify Private Chapter number 9 of the Private Acts of 1979, House Bill number 1499, Senate Bill number 1622 of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee relative to tourism and the privilege tax on the occupancy of hotels and motels in Montgomery County, Tennessee. Any questions on 2166? I do have a question for Mr. Harvey. That will not require 2/3?
It will require 2/3.
It will? That probably should be pulled from the consent agenda. Just, I think, as a point of order. So, Ms. Shelley, we will pull that one. Resolution 2167, resolution of the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners approving amendments to the 2020-2021 CMCSS school budget. Any questions regarding 2167? That item is set for the consent agenda. 2168 is a resolution to amend the budgets of various funds for the fiscal year 2021 in certain areas of revenues and expenditures. Any questions on 2168? That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 2169, resolution to levy a tax rate in Montgomery County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021. Any questions regarding 2169? 21610, resolution making appropriations for the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Montgomery County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022, FY22, and approving the funding of nonprofit charitable organizations in accordance with TCA 59109. Any questions? Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to let the commission know that I plan on bringing forth budget amendments to add one additional building inspector position for building and codes that was cut by the budget committee. The cost for this will be approximately $112,680.41. I also plan on requesting to add $750,000 to the budget for the design services for a future animal care and control facility. This was also cut during the budget process, and I wish to add this back to the fiscal year 22 budget. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Any other?
Mayor, one item to add to what Commissioner Harper just mentioned. With the 2% COLA, the building inspector position would actually increase to $113,850.
Okay. If you just supply him with that information, because he might forget it since you just told him it's a long time between now and next Monday.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. Is there any way that we can get an itemized list showing all of the proposed capital projects and whether or not, have we figured out if any of those are covered under the CARES money yet? Are we that far in the process yet, or?
Well,
what's going on with that?
to answer the first part of your question, I'm pretty sure that we emailed everybody the PowerPoint presentation that we did here during the roundtable, and that should have all the capital projects on it.
Yeah, it does. I just wasn't sure if that was a final document.
Yes, that is the final list. Okay. Jeff may have something that's a little bit more official. Jeff, if you'd email that to all of the commissioners. And regarding your question around the stimulus money, we are still looking at that. I've read in the rule, there's some things I think we could stretch there, but I don't know the answer to that. And so we just want to get a really good grasp of it.
Okay, I guess the reason why I'm asking that is because honestly for me, whether or not it's covered determines whether or not I'm in favor of it. So I think it would be good for us to know. I know it's tough, but if there's a way that we can know for sure.
I don't think I can answer that question before you vote on this budget. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I will go through the list and I will give you a summary of what I feel like is my best opinion of it. But there's no guarantee if I said something was that it would be, or if I said it wasn't, that it could not be.
We would have to have a separate vote to issue any bonds for those, correct?
Well,
if we went that route.
for any of the dollars that we would spend through the stimulus act, that would come before this body and get approval of this body to do so. If some of the projects that are currently not our capital projects and we decide to go forward and fund those once we find out definitively that they cannot be funded by the stimulus dollars, those projects would come before this body as well.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
But I will go through the list and take a stab at it. I've read the entire document once, but when you start reading it and you start getting into all these sections and you kind of like start speed reading, and so I'm going to go back through it again, and I will provide that to the commissioners prior to Monday night. Any other questions regarding Commissioner Gannon? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you give us an update on Stokes Field? Have we gained access to entry to there, or where do we stand on that? Or you just want to wait and you got more going on and answer it next week?
Yeah, I'll answer it next week if that's okay.
That's perfect.
Resolution, any other questions, I'm sorry, regarding 21-610? 21-611, resolution authorizing the Industrial Development Board to apply for a grant from the Tennessee Valley Authority through the Invest Prep Grant Program. Any questions regarding 21-611? 21-612 is a resolution to approve funding for budget for the Multipurpose Event Center. Any questions regarding 21-612? Commissioner Beal.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask that be pulled from the consent agenda, please.
That's fine. And I failed to announce without objection 21-611 would be on the consent agenda, but we will pull 21-612. Any other questions on 21-612? All right. Commissioners, you'll see under no old business, but reports for approval. The commission minutes dated May 10th will be on the consent agenda. County clerk's report will be on the consent agenda. I'll call on the chairman of the nominating committee to present the nominating committee nominations. Mr. Keene.
I'm sorry. The nominating committee met this evening, and we nominated 3 folks to replace Carl Wilson, Suzanne Langford, and Wallace Crowe. And they were John Rudolph, Will Sanders, and I've lost my place here. And Kayla Gold Levan. And they will be placed in nomination next week to be the new members of the the Industrial Development Board and the Health and Education Housing Facility Board. And also we renominated Jeff Purvis to fill a new term, a 4-year term on the Economic and Community Development Board that will expire in June of 2025.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And for the county mayor nominations, judicial commissioner, Michael Williams has been nominated to serve another 1-year term to expire June 2022. Ronald Parrish, part-time, has been nominated to serve another 1-year term to expire June 2022. Public Building Authority, Lucy Goad has been nominated to fill the unexpired term of Tim Harvey with a term to expire December 2022. Wes Sumner has been nominated to fill the unexpired term of John Gannon with a term to expire December 2023. And Jim Jobe has been nominated to fill the unexpired term of Larry Riccone with a term to expire December of 2025. Under county mayor appointments, Tony Xavier appointed to replace Kanal Shaw for a 3-year term to expire June 2024. Alan Mosier, appointed to replace Louisa Cook for a 3-year term to expire June 2024. Kyle Luther has been reappointed to serve a 3-year term to expire June 2024. Matt Cunningham has been reappointed to serve a 3-year term to expire June 2024. And Maria Jimenez has been appointed to fill the unexpired term of John Rudolph, who resigned, with a term to expire June of 2023. And under the Public Records Commission, Judge Katie Olita, appointed to fill the unexpired term of Judge Jill Ayers, with a term to expire April of 2022. And Commissioners, I believe that is all of the county mayor nominations and appointments. You'll see the reports filed. I'm sure there'll be some added. Commissioners, we have 3 announcements. Just a reminder that the election process will take place at our formal commission meeting on June 14th, 2021 to elect a replacement for county commissioner in District 6 due to the passing of Commissioner Hodges. You should have received an email today from Ms. Baggett that provides you with all the applicants' information, telling you that it was placed in Dropbox for your review prior to next week's election process. And beginning in July, I would request that a member of the Airport Liaison Committee, the School Liaison Committee, and the new Highway Liaison Committee give reports to the commission at our informal meeting. Those items will be placed on the agenda. I'm not sure who all is on Airport Liaison, School Liaison, and the new Highway, but maybe y'all can get together, or just somebody be willing to do it, or rotate doing it, or whatever. But I think it's good to report that to the commission. And then a reminder, the July informal commission meeting will be on Tuesday, July the 6th, due to the holiday. I don't think we have any other business. I know Commissioner Pritchard had a birthday June 3 days ago, June 4th. Happy birthday to you. With no further business, we stand adjourned.